I think it is very possible that Liebe is the son of Licht. You might think this is an absurdity, but let me explain. During the wedding of the human royal Tetya and the elven chieftain Licht, the devils agreed would devise a plan to wreak havoc, allowing the human royals to steal the mana of the elves and thus causing the death of the entirety of the elf tribe. Though it would be revealed that not only did Tetya survive this onslaught, but she was actually carrying twins. And though one of the twins died, likely the one whose soul possessed Yuno, there was another one that survived within Tetya. It is surmised that they would go to Elysia, as we would see the descendants of Licht and Tetya now 500 years later occupying the territory. And this is where Patri, Fauna, Veto, and Raya would reside after the defeat of the War Devil Segred in the current time. Since we know that one of these twins survived, that means there's a story that we just haven't heard yet. You could surmise that the son of Licht and Tetya would eventually become an incredibly powerful magic user, being a hybrid son of two powerful beings. But there's a lot of information in the lore of Black Clover that Yuki Tabata has sprinkled in that would actually point to multiple things. Why Liebe has no mana, who he is, and why it was important for him to be connected to Asta, and most importantly, why Liebe is actually the son of Licht and Tetya. Welcome back to the video, welcome back to the channel, everybody. This is Broku. Thank you guys so much for all the support lately. Huge theory coming out. Been working on this one since last week. So please leave a like if you enjoy. Let's get this to 2,000 likes because this is a pretty interesting theory in my opinion. So let's get there. Also, link down below. Join my Discord and Twitter. I'm going to be a lot more active on Discord the next few weeks. I know that I was on there in the beginning when I created it, and now I've kind of been off of it, but I'm going to be on it way more often. I'm talking about like every day. I'm going to talk with you guys on there, and then at least once a week I'll get in the voice chat, and you guys can talk about Black Clover or anything, manga related, or just anything. So join my Discord link down below. Comment down below, guys. I want you guys to tell me what you think Liebe has no magic, why you think he doesn't have magic, before you end up watching this video. But with that being said, let's get into it. Now, it's been a huge theory for a long time that Asta and Yuno were hosting the souls of the twins of Licht and Tetya, as this was 100% proven for Yuno. But for Asta, it was just a fan theory. Because at the time, we did know that Licht and Tetya had twins. But it was proven in chapter 265 that Tetya survived the initial onslaught and had another child that survived. This spurned my creative and theory juices rapidly after this, as I immediately assumed that the lost twin was Asta's devil, especially since it would be shown for Liebe to actually look like Asta and had elven ears. Now this is important because the reason why this initial theory was so popular was because both Yuno and Asta looked at nothing alike, but they both looked like they could be children of Licht and Tetya, and thus would be just taking the properties of their parents and would possibly be hosting the souls of fraternal twins from Licht and Tetya, and they, in a sense, these twins would be fraternal twins. But with Tetya having twins confirmed, it actually makes this initial theory even further possible. And this theory actually now explains why Liebe has no mana. As remember, the elves had all their mana stolen from them by the human royals, using the magic device that was stolen from Lumiere. If Liebe was the son of Licht and Tetya, he would have been in the womb while the device was active and would have had his magic stolen by the device. Thus, Liebe was doomed to live in a world where magic was everything, just like Asta. So, in this instance, he actually takes on a similar persona of Asta, and what I mean by that is that it is possible that Asta wasn't the first brutish human swordsman, or I guess Liebe would be a hybrid, but he may have used the Demon Dweller and Annihilator swords paired with his physical strength, just like Asta did. I do believe that Liebe had trained his physical body in the past, just like Asta. I believe this because even when Liebe was just a little devil child, with no anti-magic and wounded, he was able to run and get away from powerful magic knights. This would mean that Liebe's physical strength and speed would be unbelievably powerful, which would be a further parallel to Asta, which is needed for this theory, as all elven souls are heavily paralleled by their human hosts. Now we know that Licht's son must have grown to be at least somewhat old because he was able to reproduce. Now this might be weird because when we first see Liebe, he is a child, but what I think happened here is that Liebe fell. He turned into a dark elf and then descended into that of a devil. I've made theories in the past of why I think devils, or at least the high-ranking ones, are fallen elves, so I'll link some of those in the description so you can get into that further. But when he was transferred to the underworld, I think he was rebirthed as a baby. Now, I think of this is because magic is tied to the soul, and soul plays a huge part in Black Clover. We just don't know enough about it yet. A grimoire is tied to the soul, and 5-leaf clover grimoire is one of the only ways for a devil to access the mortal world. It's becoming closer with the soul that allows the user to wield ultimate magic, and the devil exists in the underworld, and if they don't possess a body or use the Qliphoth, they will not be corporeal and will instead act as a soul, Lumiere even states that devils are souls with malicious mana, and Liebe even calls the human world the physical world, which further implies that devils are actually just malicious souls or spirits. So when Liebe turned into a devil, he was reset in a way. That's why he looked different, because it's really his soul, his corrupted soul. Now I actually have a possible explanation for why and how Liebe is anti-magic, but that will be mentioned in a later part. Next, I will further give information on Liebe's relation to Licht. It seems that Liebe is repeating the sins of the father, and there are some close relations showing it. Licht falling into demonhood and Liebe becoming a devil. If you look closely at the horns of Demon Licht and the horns of Liebe, they are nearly identical in form and shape. The difference is that Liebe's horns point down, whilst Licht's horns point upwards. But this would make sense that if Liebe is the son of Licht, that if Licht turned into a demon and Liebe turned into a devil, and they both got horns, that they would be of similar look because it is a father and son. They are heavily related here. So it makes sense of why their horns are nearly identical. Licht x Tetia equals Licita. Now it is quite interesting that the mother of the main character of Black Clover has a name that is essentially the fusion of two other important characters. Licita sounds like the combination of Licht and Tetia, and thus it is possible that Licita is part Elven, a descendant of Liebe, and thus making Asta one as well. Though while I think that this is possible, I don't think there really is much credence to this theory. While the naming is a bit convincing, it is kind of empty. What I think is a lot more credible is just simply the gods of fate deemed Licita the figure that needed to raise Liebe. So see, Yuno and Licht's twin son need to be reunited for some reason, and now Licht's other twin is reunited with Asta. The gods of fate deemed it so for that Licita to be cursed with her magic and life-stealing powers, thus causing Asta to be drained of magic and dropped him off at the church, only for this motherly regret to cause her to raise the magicless Liebe into a good boy. Fate allowed her to find the 5-leaf clover grimoire so that Liebe would be sealed inside his father's grimoire, only to manifest anti-magic and then for the grimoire to choose Asta. Another thing who's crazy here is that she also had the ability to seal mana-less things, another thing that fate would be needed to add to this coincidence of how all this was able to even happen in the first place. And then, after all of this, the grimoire to choose Asta who, according to this theory, was created with the original intent to be the host of Liebe. Asta is a devil host, Yuno is the host for Licht's son. It seems that Zegred's resurrection spell caused for viable hosts to be created 500 years later. This is why all the elves and humans look so similar and exist on similar wavelengths. Also, this is why Asta and Mimosa were still created despite Tetia and Liebe not dying. Mimosa looks exactly like Tetia and Liebe looks nearly identical to Asta. This is what I think was needed. Zegred to create a host for Liebe. Zegred had created a host for Liebe even though he didn't die. And Licita both had the magic type to store manaless objects as well as to steal mana. This would allow her to raise Liebe and then seal him in the grimoire and thus pair his power with Asta. All of this is according to the God of Fate's plan. The origin of anti-magic in Black Clover has been a huge mystery. It seems that Liebe just simply manifested it by cursing devils while inside of the grimoire. But it has been confirmed in Black Clover that power is heavily tied to souls. Ultimate magic is tied to the soul, so are grimoires, and when Luck used ultimate magic, he was a battle themed according to his spell, which would be the personification of his soul, because Luck loves to fight. Licht's ultimate magic is to borrow mana from his allies and condense it into his sword, which would personify the symbolism of his soul, of unity. Now, what if Liebe's anti-magic is an actual power that he manifested thanks to the state of his soul? All he wanted to do was kill the devils. Anti-magic would definitely fit this. Now combine ultimate magic with demon magic and possibly the soul. If grimoires are so connected to the soul, it could explain how Liebe was able to do this while dwelling in the 5-leaf clover grimoire. Mana dwells in life energy, and devils seemingly don't have life energy because they are actually souls. So I think that Liebe was able to manifest anti-magic because he had neither life energy or magic, which allows Asta also to use the anti-magic because he has no mana either, and he might not have life energy since he is unaffected by the life energy eating spell of Zegred. Chosen elves can use ultimate magic that seemingly personifies their soul. If Liebe was an elven hybrid and tried to use ultimate magic despite not having any, it could have created an offshoot, and that is anti-magic. Another thing we do know is that what I theorize is that the first step to an elf becoming a demon or devil is by transforming into a dark elf because it lets them to use demon magic. What if when Liebe, he didn't have mana to begin with but converted himself into a dark elf by going through despair? Maybe Tetia died, and this turned his matter, because at that point he'd only be matter, the demon matter would create the anti-magic. And it'd be basically antimatter as anti-magic. It's one of the huge theories I've seen, is that Asta's power is actually antimatter. But that's how I think it's possible that anti-magic was created. Symbolism and themes should be an important aspect of a theory in my opinion. Even if there is evidence for a fan theory, if it completely goes against the established themes and narratives of the fictional work, then it can feel very out of place. But in this instance, this theory actually works perfectly and even adds an additional layer to the story. Asta and Yuno saving the world and making it a better place for everyone, sharing the similar ideals of Licht and Lumiere, and both being hosts for the twin sons of Licht. Licht failed and became a demon, and Liebe failed and became a devil, but fate bestowed him an opportunity to pair with his human counterpart and will probably besiege the devil threat that strikes at the physical world. Yuno being the host for Licht's elven son, and thus Yuno being portrayed as a beautiful, holy entity, would be even further brightened by the darkness of Asta and Liebe. Asta without magic, the opposite of Yuno, and a seemingly bottomless magic power, while Asta is the host for Licht's other son. This son has turned to a devil, contrasting Yuno's light with pure darkness and chaos. Thus, Liebe actually being the lost son of Licht and Tetia only further makes sense and adds to the symbolism of the story. Now, I know by now a lot of you are saying that this really is just far too many coincidences to happen to make sense. That all this happened with Asta, Liebe, and Licita just so that the two could be connected and ultimately be the savior of the world. But this is a world where the god of fate exists and is pulling the strings on many events in Black Clover. When Liebe and Licita interact, fate and destiny is brought up multiple times, and Liebe even accepts that his grouping with Asta is in fact fate. What are the odds that Liebe, the son of Licht, gets his mana stolen by the royals, becomes a devil eventually, accidentally escapes the underworld, is raised by Asta's mom, who was able to raise him because her curse stole Asta's mana, and so she left him at the church. And her lucky combination of power allowed her to save Liebe by sealing him in the grimoire while also stealing Lucifero's mana. Then several years later, his foster mother's son is now all of a sudden wielding the grimoire that was his father's, and it just so happens that Asta is also possibly the human host for Liebe's original human soul that the spell that Zagred had created for elven reincarnation. I mean, they look nearly identical except for the fact that Liebe has the elven ears and his devil features. So that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. But overall, this theory covers who Liebe is, why and how he has no magic, how anti-magic came into existence, and more. It further adds the symbolism and themes to Asta and Yuno's rivalry. With that being said, leave a like down below. Let's shoot for 2,000 likes. Comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. You can join my Discord and Twitter down below. Hope you guys all have an amazing day. Plus...